Welcome back to Unscripted. We have our second guest on the show, and I'm quite happy about this one. This is a man that I look up to. Brevin, welcome. I'm joking. Gerardi, welcome to Sapphire's Unscripted, the world's best rugby podcast that there is. Quick
Sounds
introduction
like
of
the
yourself.
tens.
Sorry?
Actually, it sounds like the tens when you mentioned the world's best, something to do with raga. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm Gerardi or Jerry Widdendal from Old School. I see you proudly showing off your little tens logo there. Awesome, thanks for that. And the Old School on the shoulder. And yeah, I run the tens. I've run it for a couple of years. Today in the office, we actually said I walked in and there was about 4 new starters, probably about 12 people in the office. And I said, gosh, that's the first time I think we've got more than 10 people actually working on the tens.
Wow.
Um, and I also said to them last night, somehow, I don't know if I slept very lekker. I had a very good snooze. But somewhere in the night, someone asked me, what's the tens? And I remember, and he said to me, just do it in a paragraph or explain it. And I said, I can't. It's actually just 3 words. It's basically sport, entertainment, and mates. And I guess within sport, within entertainment, and within mates, there's hundreds of different adjectives and words, but it's basically those three: sport, entertainment, and mates. But yeah, so I run the tens with a bunch of great youngsters and people who love it, and in fact, we organize it for ourselves, and then we have to sell entries to you guys to make sure we can actually host the entire bloody show and run the production as well as we've done over the last couple of years.
Yeah, so just for the viewers to explain, tens is um, so exactly what Gerardi just said, but it's 10-man rugby. That's probably, I'm assuming that's what you guys,
Yeah.
that was the first thing you guys started, and it's obviously expanded to netball, dodgeball, at what's that? What else? You guys are paddle now, all
Yeah, and
sorts
I
of sports.
guess, yeah, Burns, and I guess at the beginning when a good mate of ours, Ron Rutland, started it and had to phone around in Cape Town to say, I'd like to book, security or chairs or beers for the tents. The people went like, Cape Town, what? Cape Town tents? Like, you want tents? Are you about tents? I said, no, we tents. So we had to explain to them. And it took a couple of years before we started other sports. But for us, like 10 is just a great little number. We always try and work a 10 into the entire schedule. But yeah, it's tennis-side rugby, 10 players, ten rolling subs. But the same for netball, 10 players. The same for dodgeball, 10 players. The same for water polo, 10 players. Unfortunately for paddle, we can't put 10 players on the field, so that's two. But yeah, it's just fun raga, fun sport with friends.
Is there ever a plan to have 10 sports at the event?
Yeah, in fact, we've had that before. I think actually our first Swanee tens, we managed to get very close to that because there was a squash court on site, so we introduced squash. There was bowls, so we introduced bowls.
Oh,
Um, yeah, so I guess we'd love to have 10. It doesn't often work. We had hockey and soccer as part of it years ago. It's just the teams just don't pull in as much as the raga and netball teams do. So we've had
okay.
to use some of those fields for netball courts. But yeah, I guess whatever goes. And I think adding paddle and water polo last year was just 2 new sports. We've added another new one this year. Actually, 2 new sports this year, which we figured we wouldn't have do at all. But there's a fun run that's happening on Saturday morning. It's for a very good cause. So the Cancer Alliance approached us, asked us to assist them. And then there's also T1, which is a brand new rugby format.
Saw
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And how do you plan on going forward with the tens? Because obviously we know it's grown into this quite well-known type of, like you said, vibe where you can go and play sport with your mates. You know that you don't even have to play in a competitive league per se, because there's different
Yeah.
leagues as well for different sports. But going forward, obviously, do you plan to expand the location you go to? Because we know you've
Mm.
just done Josie tens, Cape Town tens now. So it's obviously growing quite rapidly, but what's your plans going forward with the whole 10 situation?
I guess, Brevin, late last year, someone approached us and said, can we do like a silent disco? And in that discussion with silent disco, what was cool for me was, you had three different, like three of us DJs actually playing three different tunes. And it was just after we did East London Tens where the music was completely, Afro house kind of Xhosa music. We've just come from Tswane Tens, which was completely Afrikaans. And for me, like silent disco, as a very stupid analogy, kind of worked because you could actually put Xhosa and Afrikaans and English in one beer tent. But in fact, we've all just celebrated Driekus du Plessis last night, like we celebrated Siya Kolisi,
Mm.
in the World Cup. So I'd love to have one in every single province in South Africa. I'd love to have every single ethnic language as the lead language because we all love sports. Like we've just, I think Andrea came in this morning and she said, "Jeepers, like what would our country be without sport? Because that's the one thing that keeps us together." So, Brevin, I'd love to do one every month of the year, every location in South Africa. And in fact, they're probably happening every weekend. There's a bunch of mates coming together to play a bit of sport, to have a couple of toots and beers afterwards. Imagine if we could just string it all together and there happens something all over. I guess it all goes like, do we have enough time? Do we have enough funding? Are there enough sponsors? Are there enough teams? Brett and the Predators travels to mostly all of our tournaments. They're not that big yet to go to every single one, but hopefully they'll make it soon. But I think it's just a lack of things. So yeah, I would love to do 12 tournaments a year, 12 different locations.
Mm.
That'll be very cool because our plan is that we will do every single tens tournament this year. It's probably going to be my last playing year until I take over as full on management because body's getting sore now. But we get lots of interest, and as soon as we talk about tens on our social media, all of a sudden we have a lot of friends. People want to
Mm,
join to go to tens.
yeah,
It's massively exciting for us, especially Cape Town tens. So our first tens was East London tens. So
I
we
remember.
started very small, and then our very next one after that was the biggest one that is. So we were very overwhelmed. So we saw what it's all about. But yeah, I have a question. How do you guys go about when you approach sponsors and stuff like that? Like, what do you guys? How do you guys sell this? Because people always ask us that don't
Mm,
know. That they say, "What
yeah,
is tens and how do you get into tens and stuff like that?" So, how do you
yeah.
guys go about it?
Well, I guess over the years, Brett, we've been fortunate in that sort of, we had people coming to us. We also had a very strong community of people. Like we all, like often I sell it, and it sounds a bit weird, as a pyramid scheme, where in essence, what I mean is like we know everyone. So like I've got one event in Cape Town with 7 sports, with let's say 100 rugby teams. There's only three oaks that manage that team, more or less. It's the team manager, the captain, and perhaps the guy that runs the admin. But they've all got 20 players, 20 girlfriends below them. So it runs from the top down all the way, but we know all of them. So like when you guys enter, I get your details. So when we speak to sponsors, I could tell them that I've got a very strong data rich set of people that are aged between 26 and 40 that love sport, that earn more than this per month, that absolutely probably on there. And I guess that's our aim. The WhatsApp group about the tens on your phones should be the busiest WhatsApp group for the next 100 years. And then we'll be successful because we've got people that trust our brand.
Yes.
Take a lot came to us because they basically said they're launching their shop a couple of years ago, and they need something credible where all the youngsters and the aspirational crowds are. And then we basically sold it to the next sponsor to say, like, we can issue data for you because we've got a vest that gets redeemed on at the tens, but I'll give it to the shop and you can get it from Xander.coza. And I guess, obviously the liquor brands are there because there's, copious amounts of beers being consumed and they feel they have to be there. I guess Castle Lager will never leave us because they don't want Heineken to be there, as is Klipdrift doesn't want Olaf Berg to be there, and you don't drink a Klipdrift and Twizzler, unfortunately. You drink a Klipdrift and Coke, so then Coke comes with. But I guess what's also quite interesting, and we've only realized that lately, is that every single team somewhere has a sponsor. I guess at least 70%, if not more, of all the teams are fully sponsored by little corporates, little businesses. You can just
Yeah.
look at the logos on your jerseys. And I guess that's often difficult for you guys to sell. Because what do you get? Do you get 5 players in your team? Do you get 15,000 people at the event? Do you get an opportunity to showcase your brand? Do people actually engage with it? It's not that simple. Last week, I met a company and I said to them, what's also happened to us, and Bob drove this way in the beginning. He said, Jerry, like, we've got to become a bit of a marketing campaign for someone. And now with having 4 events across South Africa, in fact, the brand could tag on to us. and go, "Look, Jerry, I'd like 50,000 people over 4 events for 2 days, nonstop, smelling, eating, touching, living my brand. But for the 12 months in between, I would like to run campaigns with oaks that actually jump. If we ask teams to do something, they actually do that for us. I mean, Brett, you've been captain of the year for a long time. We created captain of the year to get rid of some bottlenecks within the process. Teams had to submit their kit, submit medical forms, pay on time, design their kit. So we just said the first teams that do all five gets eligibility for captain of the year. So suddenly they do all their work, but we capture all the data.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's difficult, but it's very much relationship based also, no? I think in this business, people have got to trust you, you've got to over deliver, you've got to be there, you've got to make sure that you actually look after them. And you've got to be mates, almost like I think this is a business partnership between a sponsor and a brand that actually trusts and respects each other.
Yeah, that's literally what we've been doing recently. Because we have a strict rule in Predators that it shouldn't cost the player anything.
Mm.
Bring in sponsors. We play for the sponsors, and that's why we have very strict rules as Predators. I think we have more rules than the actual game of rugby in Predators. Like, you can't smoke in Predators kits. You can't drink in Predators kits. That's why when we do our fines, it's all in speedos.
Yes.
So all completely the brands not allowed to be associated with
I think we should
Chomgata.
do the
So
same for netball.
yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree.
Uh,
I wish they had the same values.
Yeah.
No, but that's
what
awesome, great. It's so cool to see that, and I guess I'm sorry I'm cutting you short and jumping in there, but I walked past one of your team fine sessions a couple of years ago, and I saw the speedos. But the next morning, I walked past you guys, praying before a match, and there was so much respect and kind of just everyone was quiet, everyone was listening. I think you did a bit of a team talk, and I just felt jeepish, like you need leaders like you also to lead the team and to set the precedent. So I'm sure you'll be a good manager when you retire.
I'm hoping to. I'm hoping to. We
Remember,
got young kids.
Dwayne Vermeulen only retired at 38, and I think Dion Fourie is still playing.
Yeah.
No, don't say that. Don't. Like, my wife already doesn't like that I'm still playing, but yeah, it is. It is what it is. I think Revan just put up his hand to ask you something.
Yeah, no. So looking at the tens game as a whole, so let's look at rugby. And for instance, obviously, we see that there's like a social league where it's more of the guys that just want to have a bit of a run around, and then there's obviously the competitive side of it where there's teams that really want to go out there and win something. Obviously, have a bit of fun, but they really are competitive as well. What are your thoughts on? Have you ever thought about maybe bringing in like the professional sides into this whole type of thing? Would that ever be an avenue for you guys to be able to bring in, like, let's say, a 10 side from the Lions or the Bulls or that type of thing? Has that ever crossed your guys' minds?
Yeah, we'd love to do that. And in fact, it has crossed our minds, Brevin. We've had discussions, I think a couple of years ago, up to Yuri Roo. And Yuri said, go for it, Jerry. Like, you guys can do it. I'll make sure that every union comes on that same weekend in Cape Town, play in the stadium. But unfortunately, like, we don't have money. As you know, the Curry Cup
Mm.
doesn't even have a sponsor. So we had to front it all. We had to pay for every single team. It was squads of 15, I think, 12 players, three management that'll play
Wow.
tens on the weekend. But unfortunately, we had to take care of them. So, like, how do you sell that? It's difficult. And how do you
Mm.
find a sponsor for that as well? We had the Pumas, came to play at the Tshwane tents at Loftus, and one of the social teams clapped them for
Yeah,
submission.
I remember.
Jimmy Stonehouse didn't like that.
Yeah.
But it's great because the youngsters can actually play. All of us maybe played a bit of rugby, rated ourselves, maybe didn't get a lucky break, but give us an opportunity. We'll put it out there. So I'd love to do that because it also brings the fans, it brings the youngsters. There's a
Mm.
reason to go there. And I think for me, what's awesome about the tens is the fact that you could actually, potentially imagine see a young little Sia Kolisi play, but you could see him later coaching a team. Yet he's just lifted the World Cup trophy a couple of months ago. But everyone feels at ease with each other. They have a couple of beers. That year when Dwayne Vermeulen was South African Captain of the Year, he was singing Captain the night before from main stage in at the Cape Town Tens. But that brings more and more people, and it gives us the opportunity to open up stadiums and do that. But I guess nowadays, Brevin, with so many rugby formats, I can't even keep
Mm.
track of
I
what's going
agree.
on. Like to find time and a slot of on a schedule is almost impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So There's every year we go to Cape Town Tens. Obviously, some people get starstruck, and you see a lot of like, shall we say, celebrities, if you will.
Mm.
How do you get them there? What has lured them to the tents?
Yeah. Like a couple of probably also 3 years ago, we sat with a lady that actually just asked us a couple of these kind of questions, and then summed up that the Tens is an amazing experience, for Jan Rapp and Maat, but also a safe and trusted platform for celebrities, actors, artists, ex-players, current players, etc. Because I think they feel they don't have to do a sponsored appearance. They don't have to really be too serious about their stuff. They can actually enjoy their time with them. So often we invite them, but often they actually just ask if they could come. Um, so yeah, it's a mix between it. Again, schedules have become a lot busier than what it used to be. But Brett, we've been fortunate. We also have to hustle and phone and ask. But I think in the beginning, with Flecky and Skinstad being ex-players, they had the relationships with the ex-players, which have moved on now. But the youngsters have grown up with it and they've seen that, so they pull in themselves. We often get I remember every year old Kitsy's wife would phone, please, like, this is me. I'm Stephen's wife, and we'd like to come to the tens. And we all said, like, just come, just send us a list. So sometimes the agents also phone and ask for tickets for their players, and we just say, just come, just have a good time.
That's awesome. That's very cool.
Yeah, and I think the game of tens has so much potential to be like a main formats of the game. Obviously, we know there's the 15-man game, the sevens-man game, but I think what you guys are doing is so crucial to even building up this formats of tens, because having played tens personally for the first time at Josie tens, it was a really cool experience. It's a game where you need to be fit, but at the same time there is that physical aspect of it as well. So it's like a combination of both.
Yeah.
Is it part of your vision to really like grow tens so that it can become more of like a regular format in a
The
sense, if
world
you get what I'm saying?
type thing.
Yeah, so when Flecky was coaching, the Stormers, he often spoke of that, and he was very frustrated with the fact, and he was also part of those chats with Yuri Ru and Saru back then, to go like, there's no better format than for preseason, to get Oaks to play, to get to test, like formats, whatever, because you proper scrum, proper line out, there's a bit of space, but everyone can play. So I think we believe fully in that. I just think in World Rugby's schedule, it unfortunately doesn't fit. Is it up to us to make it professional? I don't think we've got the time and effort for that. There's a couple of Oaks that do that. Oaks in America. There was a tournament the other day here, but I guess they sort of made for TV. Maybe they're not really made for masses of people to participate. And our philosophy is always like every single people or person that comes to the tens needs to become a player at some point. So if you can't play raga, then play paddle. If you can't play paddle, play dodgeball. If you can't play dodgeball, play water polo or whatever. Because that for me is much better. Like, you have to be in it. And you'll see when you guys stop playing, if you're not part of a team, you actually feel I can't come to tens anymore because I feel out. I'm not dressed up in my kit. I don't have
Yeah.
a team name representing me or whatever else. So, I don't think that's something we'll dabble in. If we get approached, I guess we'll help and we'll see what we can do. But for us, it's about putting a whole show together that, we spend a lot of time on understanding what time does people arrive? Where do they park? How long will it take them to get in? When is the first match? Which teams do we put in the first fixtures? Because they might have missed their plane or missed their hotel room the night before because their pre-tournament capping ceremony is normally a rowdy one. So there's a lot of time on actually just looking after our people and making sure they have a good time. I honestly don't really care who plays when on the main schedule, as long as it all fits together.
Yeah. We actually at last year's Cape Town Tens, we were the first game of day one, and the team that we were meant to play against, so the game started at 8, and at 9 o'clock they rocked up like eyes blood red, carrying that gazebo. They're like, guys, you missed the game. It's like, no, our first game's at 9:30. It's like, no, 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 no. You gotta check the fixtures. And they said, yeah,
No,
sorry, last night was a bit rough. I think it's that
no, we don't want that.
water polo party that caused a lot of havoc there. So good on you for including the water polo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was power. I just want to find out how did you come up with water polo? Because it wasn't there previous years, but that pool's been there forever.
Yeah, and I guess it was also funny enough, Flecky, that drove that. Like I always look for a new sport, and I would have never thought because I never played water polo. Like growing up in the Karoo, like you hardly swim once every 10 years when there's a bit of a flood coming through. So it wasn't part of our vocab or my vocab. But Rob said, Jerry, I love to play, and my mates would love to play, but they don't play rugby anymore. We're just too old. But let's play water polo. And that pool is beautiful. So we went across and we kind of asked for the city and bullied our way a bit in, and it worked like a bomb. It's just so awesome to play water rugby. In fact, I think one of the teams, the Carrero team, have ended the team and they planned their whole arrival Thursday morning, 11 o'clock at the pool with their team that is going to play water rugby, according to them. Um, yeah, so
Yeah,
it's awesome, beautiful.
yeah, we actually stay at Mojo Hotel. That's right opposite that. So for us, we're in the perfect location. But,
It's
ladies
walking
and
distance.
gentlemen, I did promise Gerardi this will only be a 20-minute episode. And the man is with his family, is having a braai. As you can see, it's still light in Cape Town, which is completely unfair. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode. We do ask our guests one question at the end of every episode is now that you've seen how amazing our podcast is and that these are legit rugby knowers, who is the next guest you'd like to see on our podcast?
Gosh, I think it would be but I've got people in the background here recommending people. But I think I'd love to hear what Dricus du Plessis
Oh
is thinking
yeah.
of tens and how he's going to get his next UFC 300 or 304 to be in the main ring at the tens on a Saturday afternoon.
Okay, we shall send this clip to Dricus du Plessis and
Oh
hope that
yeah.
please. So thank you so much for joining our podcast. We do appreciate it, taking time away from your family. Sorry, I hear them in the background. Sorry that we kept them away from you guys. Gerardi, you must have a lucky evening. Thank you for joining
Yeah.
us.
Thanks to you guys and thanks for coming, Nate. Looking forward to seeing you all next week.
Of course.
Definitely.
Enjoy.
Ciao, ciao.
Cheers.
Cheers,
Bye.
cheers, cheers, cheers.